Okay, let me try and give you an analogy which doesn't explain déjà vu. It's not an accurate model, but it will just might give you a hint or a taste of what might be taking place in déjà vu. First of all, have you ever actually experienced the past or the future? No. So if we've never experienced a past or a future, it's tantamount to saying we've never experienced time. So if time is never actually experienced, although we have the concept of time, we don't actually experience it. So could it be that time is, what we call time is not really what it appears to be? Because our experience is always now. And the now is not a moment that is moving along a line of time. We don't actually experience them. In order to experience that line of time, we would have to have experienced the past or the future. But as you rightly say, we don't. So the now is not actually a moment in time. It is eternity. It is not in time. So could it be that's our experience? And yet we have a model of time. Could it be that our model of time is just our limited mind's point of view of eternity? That eternity is that time is what eternity looks like when refracted through the prism of each of our finite minds. In other words, that what appears to us in the horizontal dimension of time really takes place in the vertical dimension of being. But that our mind refracts the eternal now out, spreads it out, so to speak, and makes it appear as time. Now just consider that possibility. So now let's translate that into an analogy. Take a novel. And when you buy a novel, let's say in the novel, it's the story of it's a story of a person's life. So in the novel, there's a story of 100 years. The novel takes place over 100 years. And when you buy the novel, the novel is complete. It's all there in the same moment. But you can't access the entire novel in one moment. You have to read the novel page by page. So although the entire novel exists complete, the only way you can access it is by reading it page by page. And you reading it page by page spreads out the novel. It takes you a month to read it. But yet it's all contained in the moment. Now normally, the contents of the novel you have to access page by page. If you're on page 44, you don't know what's happening on page 73 because the pages are separated. The contents of each page is not available until you open that page. But sometimes, if this separating mechanism, if each page is not quite as opaque as it should be, if some of the pages are transparent, then some of the contents of page 73 filter through, and you read them on page 44. In other words, you experience on page 44 what's really going to happen on page 73.
Would that be via dream?
That's déjà vu. Or it's in this case you're seeing something that's taking place in the future. Sorry, I should do it the other way around. For you, déjà vu, you're on page 73. You've forgotten what happened on page 14, but the contents of page 14 filter through the transparent layers and they appear on page 73. So something that actually took place on page 14, you re-experience it when you're reading page 73. It would also account for intuition, which is the opposite of déjà vu. It's an intuition of something that's going to happen in the future rather than a recollection of something that happened in the past. Now, I'm not saying that this is an accurate model of déjà vu. I'm just trying to make a distinction between our concept of time, which we normally think that experience takes place in time, which is contrary to our experience. We never experience time, we only ever experience the now. The now is not a moment in time, it is eternity, the eternal now. So how can we reconcile the concept of time and our experience of the eternal now? And as we try to reconcile them, I use the example of the novel. The novel is fully present now, and yet we can only access it in time. So it's an analogy that accounts for both our belief in time and our experience of the eternal now. And the analogy tries to show how something that either took place in the past or is going to take place in the future could filter through into the present if all of time is contained in the present.
So you're suggesting that our life is already pre-written?
No, it's not as literal as that.
Or at least certain moments in time are pre-written, but there may be choices in between. Or we're not here to make the choice, we're here to understand the choices we made.
It's more subtle than that, it's more complex than that. I'm not suggesting that our lives are pre-written like a novel, it's all there cast in stone. I think God is a jazz musician, not a classical musician. It's not all written on it. It happens. You know, he's jamming all the time. It's like you two with the violin, and you have no idea what you're going to play. It looks to us all very orderly and as if they've been rehearsing, but actually they didn't. They just started playing. George and Digit, yeah. So no, I'm not meaning to imply that it's all pre-written in a way that I don't know how I would explain this. That both, let's go back, page 73, what happened on page 14, in a déjà vu, what happens on page 14 filters through into page 73 while you're reading it. And you think, oh, this is a déjà vu, I experienced it in the past. But it wasn't really, you see, when you ask the question, oh, is it all pre-written, you're presuming time. Has it all been written in time? No, your question presumes the mistake. It presumes the existence of time. Page 14 didn't really happen in the past. Page 14 is somehow contained in the same moment that page 73 is contained in. Even calling it déjà vu, I've already seen this, it's already happened, presupposes it happened in the past. No, it didn't happen in the past. There isn't any past for it to happen in. But we cannot think about this. Why? Because our minds are constructed to think in time and space. So it's why it's not possible to explain time and déjà vu, because any explanation would contain time. Thought is time. Time is created with or imagined with thought. So that's why when you push your mind to try to come up with an explanation, we reach the limits of the mind, because the mind imposes its own limit on everything that it thinks about.
There is a deep knowing there, though, in that moment, just a deep knowing.
There's a deep knowing, but the mind misinterprets that deep knowing and interprets it in line with its own limitations and says, I'm experiencing something that happened in the past. No, that's a misinterpretation. But there's something right about the mind's knowing. The mind just gives it the wrong interpretation. It's not really a déjà vu. It hasn't already happened. There is no past for it to have already happened in. But that's the best the mind can say. So the mind is right. Something that this déjà vu experience, it fractures your perfect model of time and space. It shatters our view of the world. Normally everything seems to conform with our belief in time and space, and then something like this happens. The déjà vu, that this just shatters our time and space vision of reality. And then in order to try to put that model back together again, the mind then uses its belief in time to construct a model about what's happening, and in doing so it just reinforces its belief that the past exists, that this has happened before, the déjà vu, it's already been seen. So it's impossible for the mind to really correctly interpret these experiences. So that's why I said this analogy of the novel is not an accurate analogy. I'm just trying to give you a taste, trying to give the mind a taste of I'm trying to reconcile our belief in time with our intuition that in reality there is no time. Trying to reconcile these two models in a way that gives the mind just a taste of what might be true. Now, I'm not sure how well I explained that. Did that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, but just don't try and understand it with your mind. More look at it as it's more of a opening of the mind to get you to question time and space.
Yes, the value of these experiences is to shatter our model of experience. It's all made out of matter. It all takes place in time and space. Time and space are the ultimate nature of reality. The value of these experiences is to shatter that model rather than to give us a new model. The fact that it's happened, it makes you think, wow. The déjà vu experience is so powerful. You know you're not imagining it. It's just a little fracture when the doors of perception open and you, oh my God, things are not the way I thought they were. Time is not what I thought it was. That's the power of an experience of that, and that opens you to a new possibility. It's not supposed to replace your old model with a new model. It's supposed to open you to a new possibility.
Thank you.